CBS presents What They Believe. Hindus, Zoroastrians, Baha'is.
Zoroastrians believe in a prophet named Zarathustra. Over 3,500 years ago, he proclaimed that there was one supreme God and called him Ahura Mazda, or Wise Lord. He said mankind must choose between God and the forces of evil.
We are asked to work very hard, not to renunciate life, not to go up in a mountain and pray, but to be in the thick of it and to work hard, to do good and to be good, and to actively fight evil.
Zarathustra taught individual responsibility for the choices we make through good thoughts, words, and deeds.
And in our religion, that's not through the religion, and it's not by improving yourself. It's by doing good things and actually improving the world. We inherently respect all other religions because we don't believe you need to be Zoroastrian to be a good person.
Zoroastrianism predates the Judeo-Christian traditions and is believed to have influenced their doctrine. Throughout the Persian Empire, Zoroastrians thrived, their numbers in the millions. But by the 7th century, the spread of Islam forced many to leave Iran for India and other countries. Today, the largest population of Zoroastrians are found in India.
We call ourselves Parsis, and we did quite well in India. We have lots and lots of charities. We are a very small community in India. At the zenith, we were about 100,000. Today, we may be about 70,000 in India.
In the 1960s, a small number of Zoroastrians emigrated from India to North America in pursuit of the American dream.
Roshan, and I arrived in Chicago in the winter of 1966. It was minus 22 degrees that day. But we survived, and when we first arrived, there were maybe 20 of us in the Chicago area.
We feel a very, very awesome responsibility to maintain something that has had such a rich history for the past 3,700 years. How do you maintain all your customs and your values if your nearest Zoroastrian neighbor is, 50 miles away?
True to their tradition, worship happened mostly at home, but they would gather together for weddings and religious ceremonies. As their community grew, they became more organized and by 1976 formed the Zoroastrian Association of Metropolitan Chicago. They built a darimer, or house of devotion, for worship and community gatherings. It also provides a place for the sacred fire, a central symbol of the faith.
Fire represents the divinity here on earth. So around the fire, we place all of the elements of creation when we perform our ceremonies. Our mission in life is to move creation forward, and that's what motivates all Zoroastrians, to be of service to humankind, and service and be steward of the environment.
Priests or mobeds wear veils to prevent contamination of the sacred fire. They feed the flames with sandalwood and pinches of frankincense and myrrh. The story of the three magi who proclaimed the birth of Christ are thought to be Zoroastrian priests.
We don't worship a fire. It's more a symbol that we look at when we pray. It's a beautiful symbol because it's a moving object and it's a moving thing. And the way that they tend these fires for thousands of years, ritualistically, you have to have respect for it. Something that's so old and that's been taken care of by literally generations and generations of people.
There are fires in temples in Iran and India that have been burning for 2,000 years.
The priests tend to the fire 5 times a day. So there's usually one priest that's on duty for 12 hours or so. They come there from their home. The fire isn't a raging fire for 24 hours a day. A lot of times it dies down to embers or smaller fire.
Cyrus is the youngest of the Ravetna's 3 children. He is a Chicago-based architect who is now designing Zoroastrian centers in North America.
I think a lot of people look at him from a religious perspective, but nobody had looked at him from an architectural perspective. So when I went to India, I expected all sorts of information about how our fire temples were built, but there was literally nothing. I probably visited almost 30 or 40 of the different fire temples. So I documented them through photographs, sketches, and then I talked to a lot of the people in the communities and the priests to understand the history and the culture of the fire temples and how they work and what spaces.
What he learned in India, he is now adapting to U.S. building standards.
We have the religious side here and the more cultural side here. When our communities first came to the United States, they were desperate for anywhere to congregate and to meet. So they built whatever they could with the funds they had, which a lot of times was just nondescript building. So now our community is a little bit more established. I thought we could now build buildings that represent our community. So what I wanted to do was build modern buildings which reference the old history and the traditions of our religion.
His first Zoroastrian center was completed last year in Dallas, Texas. Today he is working on fire temples in New Jersey and Washington, D.C.
Architecture is my thing, and that's something that I can do for our community and for our religion. Building Zoroastrian centers that help our future generations understand our history and our culture and gives them an appropriate place to pray, worship, and to meet and gather as a community.
All the good thoughts, good words, and good deeds.
Zoroastrians are widely regarded as successful, well-educated professionals. But there is a growing concern around how to maintain their culture and perpetuate their faith. With only 125,000 Zoroastrians worldwide, finding a mate can be a real challenge.
Being single is hard enough, so how do you find another Zoroastrian? There may not be any other Zoroastrian in the school or college that you're at, or in the business environment that you're in.
In the 1990s, Roshan created Fazana Journal, a publication dedicated to all things Zoroastrian. On a whim, she started a matrimonial column to help single Zoroastrians find love.
It's just a very old-fashioned folder on which we keep one page for everybody that's interested in meeting some other Zoroastrian. And we try to introduce them. That's all we do, because they may not have an opportunity to meet each other.
She has introduced over 50 couples since she started the informal matchmaking service.
We don't charge anything for the services, but we are just amply rewarded when we hear that somebody is actually hooking up with another Zoroastrian. So it's very satisfying. It's one small effort to perpetuate the customs and traditions.
What they believe will return.